You ever notice how one small conversation can cost you hours of your life, not money, not effort, just mental replay? You're in the shower and suddenly you're back in that moment, replaying what you said, what they said, what you should have said. You tweak the lines, you improve your response. You win the argument, but only in your head. And here's the uncomfortable truth: most people don't realize your brain is spending real energy on imaginary conversations. Like it's an unpaid full-time job. Now imagine if you could redirect even 50% of that mental energy into focus, into decisions, into actual progress. That's not just psychological relief. That's leverage, because what feels like overthinking is actually something deeper, something your brain believes is important. So why does this happen? Why do some conversations refuse to leave your head? And more importantly, why does it feel like you can't stop? Let's break it down. First, understand this. Your brain is not trying to annoy you. It's trying to protect you. There's a concept in psychology called cognitive rehearsal. It's exactly what it sounds like. Your brain is rehearsing past situations to prepare you for the future. Think of it like a mental simulation system. You replay a conversation not because you're weak, but because your brain thinks, this matters. Next time we need to do better. That's why the conversations you replay are rarely random. They're emotionally charged. Maybe you felt disrespected, maybe you embarrassed yourself, maybe you didn't say what you really wanted to say. Your brain flags these moments as unfinished business, and unfinished business is dangerous to the brain. Because from a survival perspective, social mistakes used to mean rejection, and rejection used to mean isolation. And isolation meant death, so your brain goes into overdrive trying to fix it, even if it's already over. Now here's where it gets interesting. Not all replaying is bad, in fact. High performers do this all the time. Athletes visualize their performance, executives mentally rehearse negotiations, speakers replay their talks to improve delivery. The difference is control. They replay with intention, you replay on autopilot, and autopilot is where the problem begins, because instead of learning from the conversation, you get stuck in a loop. Same scene, same dialogue, same emotions over and over again. That's not growth anymore, that's rumination. Rumination feels productive, but it's not. It tricks you because your brain says, we're working on it. But you're not actually solving anything, you're just reliving it, and every time you replay it emotionally, you strengthen the memory, you make it sharper, louder, more dominant, so the next time your brain looks for something to focus on, it picks that conversation again, because now it's one of the strongest signals in your mind. Let me give you a simple example. Imagine you had an awkward interaction at work. You go home, you replay it once, that's normal, but then you replay it again, and again, and again. Each time, you add more emotion, more frustration, more regret. Now your brain tags it as high priority, and suddenly, days later, it's still popping up, not because it matters that much in reality, but because your brain believes it does. Here's another layer most people miss. Replaying conversations is often tied to identity, not just what happened, but what it says about you. If you see yourself as confident and then you act awkward, your brain doesn't just process the event, it tries to resolve the identity conflict. Why did I act like that? That's not who I am. I should have handled that better. Now it's not just a memory. It's a threat to how you see yourself, and that's why it keeps coming back, because your brain is trying to restore consistency. There's also a control factor. Humans hate uncertainty. And conversations, especially emotional ones, are unpredictable, so after it's over, your brain tries to regain control by rewriting the script. You imagine better responses, stronger comebacks, clearer explanations in your head. You take control of a situation where you felt powerless. It feels good, temporarily, but it doesn't actually give you closure, because closure doesn't come from rewriting the past, it comes from accepting that it's done. Now let's talk about why it feels addictive, because it does every time you replay a conversation. Your brain is searching for resolution. And when you almost find a better response, you get a small sense of relief, a tiny reward, not enough to satisfy you, but enough to keep you going. It's the same loop that keeps people scrolling social media or checking notifications. You're chasing closure, but never fully getting it. You're just fighting the symptom. And here's the part most people don't want to hear. The more you try to force yourself to stop thinking about it, the stronger it comes back, because suppression signals importance to the brain. If you're trying hard to avoid something, your brain assumes, this must be important, keep it active. So now you're stuck in a paradox. Think about it, you lose. Don't think about it, you still lose. So how do you actually stop replaying conversations without fighting your own brain? You don't shut the loop down, you close it. That's the difference, because your brain isn't broken. The first technique is simple, but most people never do it. You finish the conversation on paper, not in your head, on paper, or your phone, doesn't matter. You write down exactly what you wish you had said. Word for word, no filters, no edits, no overthinking, just get it out. Why does this work? Because your brain treats written thoughts differently than mental ones. When it's in your head, it feels unfinished. When it's externalized, your brain registers it as processed. You've completed the loop. It's no longer floating, it has a place. But don't stop there. Here's where most people miss the real shift. After writing what you wish you said, you add one more line. What matters now? This forces your brain out of the past and into the present. Because replaying conversations is always backward-focused. Closure is forward-focused. And this question redirects your attention to something actionable, something real, something you can actually control. Second technique is what I call labeling the loop. The next time you catch yourself replaying a conversation, don't dive into it. Don't analyze it, just pause and label it. This is rumination. That's it, no judgment, no frustration, just recognition. Why does this matter? Because when you label a thought, you create distance from it. You stop being inside the loop and start observing it from the outside. And once you're observing it, it loses power. It's no longer something that's happening to you. It's something you're noticing. That small shift changes everything. Now let's go deeper. Because some conversations stick harder than others. And that's usually because there's an emotional charge you haven't processed. So the third technique is emotional clarification. Ask yourself one direct question. What exactly am I feeling about this? Not the story, not the details, the feeling. Is it embarrassment, anger, regret, disappointment? Be precise, because vague emotions keep the loop alive. Clear emotions begin to dissolve it. And once you identify it, you follow up with, why does this feeling make sense? Now you're validating the emotion instead of resisting it. And when your brain feels understood, it stops repeating itself. Here's something most people overlook. Sometimes you're not replaying the conversation, you're replaying the meaning you attach to it. This made me look stupid. They don't respect me. I always mess things up. Now it's not about the event anymore, it's about the story. So the fourth technique is to challenge that meaning, not in a motivational way, in a logical way. Ask yourself, what's the evidence that this is 100% true? And then, what's an alternative explanation? Maybe they were distracted. Maybe they didn't even notice. Maybe it mattered far less than you think. This isn't about lying to yourself. It's about breaking the illusion that your first interpretation is the only one. Because once the meaning softens, the need to replay fades with it. Now let's talk about control. Because a big reason you replay conversations is that you didn't feel in control during them. So your brain tries to regain control afterward. But here's the shift. Real control doesn't come from rewriting the past. It comes from preparing for the future. So instead of replaying what happened, you create a simple rule for next time. Something clear, something usable. For example, next time I feel interrupted, I'll pause and finish my sentence. Or if I don't understand something, I'll ask for clarification instead of guessing. Now your brain has what it actually wanted, a strategy. And once it has that, it stops running simulations, because the problem is no longer unsolved. There's one more piece that ties all of this together. And it's this: not every conversation deserves your energy, but your brain doesn't know that automatically. You have to decide it. So here's a powerful mental filter. Will this matter in a week? Be honest, not dramatic, not emotional, just honest. Because most of the conversations you replay won't matter in a week, and definitely won't matter in a month. But your brain is treating them like they're critical. This question recalibrates that. It puts things back into proportion. And here's the real payoff. When you stop wasting energy on past conversations, you gain something most people don't even realize they're losing: mental clarity, focus, presence. You're no longer divided between what happened and what's happening. And that's where confidence actually comes from. Not from saying the perfect thing every time, but from knowing you won't mentally punish yourself afterward. If you've ever felt stuck in your own head like this, you're not alone, and more importantly, you're not stuck that way. Start with just one of these techniques today. Not all of them, just one, and notice what changes. Because once you break the loop even once, your brain learns that it doesn't need to keep going back. If you want more breakdowns like this, real psychology explained in a way you can actually use, make sure you subscribe and stay connected. Because the better you understand your mind, the more control you actually have over your life.